Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the second weekly of the Eternal Tournament Series Season 3 Grand Finals. We have gone through everything today. 6 rounds of Swiss, semifinals, quarterfinals, and we have made it here with 2 players. Grizzly against Zanric for our finals, both on Stone Scar, however, both playing a decently different list, I would say. Burn Queen and this mid-range list we're seeing out of Grizzly definitely have some significant differences.
Burn Queen versus Stone Scar midrange. Fire on the dance floor. Right now, we are looking at Grizzly with a fairly weak opening hand, apart from that Champion of Cunning. But he does get to Vara's favor Oni Ronin on turn 2, which just the best feeling in the world, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty great. And that's one of the reasons why definitely a deck like mid-range would prefer to play first, is having the option to respond to those Oni Ronins with Vara's favors can often be a quite a source of a tempo.
And Grizzly making a play that we've seen him make before, where he plays double fire first, and he's not actually going to play the Champion of Chaos down. So he does get to pick up a super cheap Infernal Tyrant here if he wants it, or another Vara's Favor, which he probably does not.
Yeah, I like the Infernal Tyrant here. Pick up, he'll definitely be able to play that on turn 5 with his hand. So that can prove to be quite a thorn in Zanric's side, since Zanric playing the Burn Queen list is probably not playing as much hard removal.
Yep. Champion of Chaos here comes down for Grizzly pretty easily. Steward of the Past also holds this board a lot better, and maybe means that if Zanric somehow manages to manage some deadly, I think this board is actually really pretty difficult for Zanric to get past without getting an extra 2 shadow, because of the way that Steward of the Past's health is just blockading.
Yeah, Zanric is going to have a hard time. He's going to need to have some sort of a follow-up here. He needs a Rapid Shot or a Torch, or Suffocate, or does he have Annihilates in the board? He has Suffocates for sure. No Annihilates. So he does have a number of answers, but clearly not finding any, since he just goes ahead and plays the Grenade and drops the pass.
Yep, Bandit Queen coming down here is bad news for Grizzly. Because the Champion of Chaos is activated and gotten that extra 4, Champion is now basically unblockable in this situation. On the other hand, with Steward and Champion, he can block and kill 2 units, and maybe recover from this with his Umbran Reapers and Infernal Tyrants. Depending on how threatened he feels, the Umbran Reapers first are a decent plan, but the Infernal Tyrant is probably the safest plan. And it looks like he is going for that Tyrant, which is just a really nasty card in this matchup.
Yeah, and I really like him getting this Tyrant in here and dropping it down. I mean, Tyrant is very hard for Burn Queen to deal with. Burn Queen doesn't really have any direct removal that he can answer with it here. This Champion of Chaos attacking is either signaling the Torch or the Rapid Shot. We're going to see Rapid Shot come out here, so he will go ahead and pick up the Steward of the Past and get some Overwhelm in. But at the same time, like this Infernal Tyrant is no joke, and a second Infernal Tyrant to follow it is going to be amazing for Grizzly. Going to put him very far out of Zanric's range.
Yeah, he's actually so far out of Zanric's range that he's willing to push with both of these units, and Zanric does have to block here just to get rid of that really threatening unit. And Infernal Tyrant gains him another 2. That's probably going to be an easy game 1 for Grizzly. We don't have a hand cam for Zanric right now. He's internet cut out, so he's playing from his phone, which was good that he had a backup plan.
Yeah, definitely. Great to see that much dedication from one of our players actually having his internet go down and then jumping back in with his phone. And he made it all the way to the finals, so congratulations to him for that. We're going to see if he can actually bring home the win here, though. This first game doesn't look like it's going to go in his favor, unfortunately.
Yeah, he did get the trade for Infernal Tyrant here. Grizz just securing a little bit of extra health, and 4 damage from Champion of Chaos there actually seems not in Grizz's best interest to take. He can just throw out the Umbran Reaper here, and decides not to push in with the Champion of Chaos.
Yeah.
Presumably expecting a Rapid Shot.
I guess I think that's still questionable though. Like I think you're fine with pushing the extra damage regardless, but not going to matter here anyway. Yeah, would have been lethal with Impending Doom. Also would have been lethal with this Torch pickup. So
All right.
uh,
Well, regardless, Grizzlies way ahead in this matchup. Those Umbran Reapers and Infernal Tyrants really just make that game.
yeah, that was absolutely brutal, and that was good for Grizzly. Not only did he have the Var's favor to clean up the Ronin on turn 2, but he was on the play. So Zanric, when the Burn Queen deck is on the draw and they don't have an incredibly fast start, they can get behind very quickly. They can have a big problem with amassing a threatening board against a Stone Scar mid-range deck, since Stone Scar mid-range is often playing a lot of the same threats as them, but much bigger in the curve.
Yep, and that's probably going to be the tough part for Zanric. Like, along with all of the lifesteal that's just automatically in Grizzly's deck, which is making these first two games pretty tough. You just have like a slightly slower deck doing a lot of similar things to you. So, and that's always just a tough deal because if you get on the defensive with a deck that has slightly more card advantage than you, it's hard to win from that position.
Yeah, absolutely. This is how Zanric can win, though. I think this game is a great example of that. Grizzly is holding a very slow hand, and Zanric is really going to get an opportunity to go off to the races here out of the gate. But I think he might be lacking Shadow Sigils, interesting enough. So a little bit of a slow game plan for himself as well.
Yeah, not having Shadow's pretty bad here, and Grizzly can just suffocate that for 0. He could wait until he has his Statuary Maiden and combo for the kill, but Statuary Maiden's a big enough threat on its own. He probably doesn't need to do that.
Yeah, I might have liked seeing it in this case if Zanric had played Champion of Chaos. Would have been able to suffocate a champion, but this looks like Zanric not holding Champion of Chaos either, and makes me really curious as to what his hand is, because it's definitely pretty slow. And we see a Flame Blast coming out of him for 4 damage just to clean up the Statuary Maiden. But Grizzly also having a bit of power problems, stuck on this very, very large hand.
Yep, the Death Strike works out well against this Impending Doom. Grizzly's hand is amazing. Like, he's once again got 3 Umbran Reapers and an Infernal Tyrant, so 4 cards that gain him life, just the same as last time with the 2 Umbran Reapers and the Tyrants. That is just really, really hard for Zanric to overcome, and if Grizzly ever gets his 5th power, that's probably going to be game.
And he does find his 5th power, and yeah, Zanric's going to have a very uphill climb through all these Umbran Reapers and Infernal Tyrants. I mean, we're staring down at least 15 damage of Umbran Reapers just with their effects going off. Though I will give him credit, the 6/6 Impending Doom actually holds down pretty well here.
Yep. Grizzly can play a second Umbran Reaper and double block. It's really not that bad a trade if you're gaining 10 health out of the bargain. But if he double blocks and there ends up being a torch, then the Impending Doom still lives, and suddenly Grizzly's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think we might see like an OTK here in turn, not with that Flame Blast coming in, but it would have been possible 2 turns from now with 3 Umbran Reapers in play for Grizzly to have just attacked with all the Umbran Reapers and then dropped an Infernal Tyrant to kill them all to make 15 damage.
I like Grizzly's decision not to block at all here, just push in the damage and set up the Umbran Reapers. At this point, he's looking at lethal with just the Umbran Reapers and the Torch, so as long as he can get those Umbran Reapers killed, he's got it.
Yeah, he doesn't even need to actually get them killed either. He can just punch them in. So, and Grizzly actually just going to fire that off to go ahead and drop the Infernal Tyrant and guarantee the 10 going through. Yep. So that's going to be another very quick game to Grizzly. Just too defensive out of him. Like his even with the slow hand he had, Zanric had just as slow of a hand, and like we just see how much more powerful the late game of the burn of the Stone Scar mid-range deck is as opposed to the Burn Queen deck.
Yep, it's a very, very strong setup, and like all of those cards just being in his main board means that he has such a strong matchup against Stone Scar Burn. From here, we get into sideboards, and that should help Zanric get a little bit of a recovery, but not a lot of the cards in Zanric's sideboard are especially effective against this setup. He can throw his own Umbran Reapers out to make some more even trades with those Umbran Reapers of Grizzlies, but he doesn't have a lot as many ways to silence or generally deal with those cards, so going slower might not be to his benefit.
Yeah, it might not be at all. I definitely think the Umber Reapers are a consideration out of Zanric, but much like you mentioned, Zanric doesn't have the Stature of Maidens and the Stewards like Grizzly does to be able to silence these Umber Reapers. So if Zanric does bring in the Umber Reapers, they still are just as susceptible to silence as they have always been. And a lot of the threats Grizzlies packing can go ahead and silence them. We see in the main currently 7 ways to silence these Umbered Reapers.
Absolutely zero from Zanric. There are no stewards or statuary maidens in either his hand or his sideboard. So at this point, like he's basically putting in death strikes to make sure that he has answers to the infernal tyrants, and just praying that the Umber Reapers don't make too many appearances.
Yeah, I feel like if you're Zanric, you're bringing in your Flame Blast probably. You're probably bringing in the Suffocates, and you're probably bringing in the Death Strikes. You might also bring in the Annihilates, although they have narrower targets. So you can't get Champion of Chaos and Infernal Tyrant with them.
Yeah, and you have to be careful flooding your hand with too much removal, because the game plan is still to overwhelm your opponent and get enough damage in to really start crushing. On Grizzly's side, we're seeing Stray into Shadow come out, and that is the first time we've seen this card sideboarded in the matches that we've been casting, but it's a really strong choice here.
Yeah, it's a super strong choice in this type of matchup. The biggest thing that it does is it turns off Dark Return for Zanric, which is a card that he definitely has in his list. And it also just clears almost all of his threats. Like almost all of his threats can get eaten up by the Stray into Shadow. The only things that can actually dodge it naturally are Impending Doom and double influence requirement Champion of Chaos. Those are the only cards in his whole deck that can dodge it. Pyro Knight if it gets powered up.
Yeah, I think this looks like it might even be a 3-0 for Grizzly in the finals. Like Zanrix definitely managed to get away with a lot of aggressive burn here, but the buck might just stop here. There's so much lifesteal. There's so many different ways to counter this burn deck just built in, and it's a sign of good deck building from Grizzly. Like just making sure that he has enough health to survive all of this aggro. We will see if that's going to push through, but I think he's favored.
Yeah, I definitely think he's favored as well. 3 Infernal Tyrants in the main board. Doesn't even need any the 4th one in the side. He's just going to keep playing those 3 in the main. And those cards alone make it so hard for Zanric to actually win this matchup. And Zanric not going first a single time in this series either.
Yeah, Grizzly picked a very defensive hand, so Zanric can run him out of threats and actually get some pressure out. But with the strength of the cards in his hand, like that removal does deal with most of the threats that Zanric can put out for quite some time.
Yeah, he is going to have a hard time making something actually stick to the board. We see an Umbered Reaper picked up for Grizzly, so as long as he can hit a power in the next 2 turns, then he will be able to put that down on the board and start chunking away himself.
Yeah, this is not looking good. When you're the aggro beatdown deck and your moves are turn 1 nothing, turn 2 Quarry, turn 3 Caleb's Favor, like you just don't have any pressure here, and Grizzly's holding all of the control tools he needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Grizzly with an Annihilate, 2 Torches, and a Stray into Shadows, going to be not afraid of really anything Zanric can play. The biggest, scariest thing Zanric can even pull out from his deck is an Impending Doom, and it just dies as this 2 damage Annihilate, or 2 cost Annihilate, rather.
Efficient answers to efficient threats. Champion of Chaos could still be kind of scary here, but I think Umber Reaper is just an obvious play for Grizzly. And once Umber Reaper's down, that puts his health at a place where he's just really satisfied with the state of the board.
Yeah, it's also going to punish Zanric a little for playing that Varus favor, assuming he doesn't have a second one.
All right, so the Umber Reaper does come down. Zanric will probably have to play a torch or something to get there. I assume he has Umber Reapers of his own if he's playing a hand this slow. There's just not that many slow cards in Zanric's deck, so he's got to be holding on to like Obliterates and Flame Blasts and other things like that. So the Umber Reaper, really, really strong choice.
Yeah, Umber Reaper going down to the Obliterate here, but that's an Obliterate that didn't end up doing any damage to Grizzly's face.
It did one. Oh, well, no, it actually didn't.
Yeah, it's fortunately just recovered. So Champion of Chaos actually pretty good here, although he does line it up into the Stray into Shadows next turn with a Torch. Vara's favor would have also been good if he was on 7 power, or 6 anyway.
Yeah.
But since he isn't, I mean, you still have good options here. I feel like you probably can get away with straying here, or he might just save it.
Suffocate double torch if he wanted to, and it looks like that is the line he's going for. But Stray into Shadows is certainly a pretty fun way to get like a lot of value out of this particular setup. I think holding here is kind of nice because it does allow him to hold the Stray for like even more value next turn, but he's got to kill that Argent Port, right? Like taking 8 damage is not a.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. You gotta at least take down the Argent Port, so you're only taking 5 here. 18 is a manageable life total, but 15 is quite a bit scarier. And we do see the impending doom come down, so
It's
the
an
strain.
annihilate target if I've ever seen one, but it makes everything really awkward.
Yeah, it kind of does now that other Torch is out. I feel like you still have to drop the annihilate though, but Grizzly deciding against it. It looks like he's just going to choose to stray and then torch one of the targets.
Yeah.
Probably going. Wait, that is very awkward though.
Line of play leads to Grizzly taking a lot more damage than he needed to, like probably a full 10 more damage than he needed to. Uh, and without Stray in hand, he is like more vulnerable to tokens as well. So he's got to do something here.
Yeah, we're gonna see which threat he wants to clear. I have to imagine he'll clear the champion, although it looks like he wants to clear the steward, which kind of doesn't make any sense to me particularly, since it would have been just as easy to go ahead. Ooh, oh wow, are we gonna see
Double rapid shot into what is likely a flame blast. I think Grizzly might have actually thrown this game away. With the Death Strike available, he's got a couple more options, but Flame Blast or Obliterate kills him, and Xanric's very likely to have both of those cards.
Yeah, he really is though, and yeah, Xanric holding Obliterate, gonna actually be able to claw back the first game of sideboards.
Well,
And
cool.
yeah,
Glad to see another game.
Yeah, me too. I would like to see if Xanric can actually claw back in here. It looks like looks like that worked out rather well for him. Those rapid shots, man, like that ended up being a lot of damage, pushing 13 damage total with the champion.
Oh, Grizzly's reconsidering Stray into Shadow here, and like I don't think that card was the problem in his deck. I think it was just that he ended up playing it at the wrong time. Like he had a decent opportunity to stray, and then he didn't use it. But looks like he's going to hold on to it here. So, Treachery comes out for a quarry, and beyond that, we'll see if Grizzly wants to make any further changes.
I feel like his deck's good for the most part. I think Grizzly is still favored in the matchup. I think he played his hand too defensively, and I think the thing that he did so well in the first few games was that he might have had defensive type hands, but it was because he had these very powerful 4, 5, and 6 drops to play, like actual units, something that forced Xanric to try and interact with him back. But instead, Grizzly just never played anything that game.
Yeah, it was something we noted very early on, like when we saw his initial hand, was that it just didn't have any sort of gas in it. So you were playing defensively, and eventually you do run out of threats. And like on that note, like while trying not to run out of threats, Grizzly played somewhat inefficiently and ended up losing a couple of cards out of that. Sabotage,
Fires
which
off.
hits nothing. Ooh.
Yeah, that means Xanric's hand must be really loaded up. We're probably going to see an Oni Run and a Pyro Knight, and in fact, we do see the Pyro Knight come down. And this is going to be an interesting game here because Grizzly actually is going to have some power issues as well here if he can't find a third power.
Playing a card down and playing out of power, that's a rough deal. This is one of those things about Sabotage where it just doesn't always get you what you want. I think it's a risky maneuver to put it in your sideboard in this particular matchup, but you do want those Flame Blasts and those Obliterates, so it's not that unreasonable to be throwing it this early.
I think Sabotage is a great card in this matchup, but I think playing it on turn 1 is a little a little too risky. You really should be saving it for turn 4, 5, and 6 when it's more likely that they've amassed those cards, because they're not just going to fire off the Flame Blast for 4 damage, and the Obliterate can't be played until 5. So you're very comfortable waiting a few and then seeing if you can pick up something with high value.
Grizzly missing steps hard. He's still favored to win these games, but I don't think he's favored to win this game. I think he's just like in a lot of trouble here, and that is a lot of aggression coming out of Zanric this turn.
Yeah, that is quite a bit of damage. And yeah, I really don't think Grizzly's actually going to find a way to get out of this game. He's definitely going to have to pick up another power next turn that is Shadow in order to even have a chance. And I'm not sure why he's recurring the chain here particularly. I think playing Statuary Maiden was probably just as good, since Xanric's champion is going to run over this. Guess trying to dodge Suffocate.
Yeah, dodging Suffocate seems pretty good. Like, this is just a little bit more reliable way to block that damage, and having reliable ways to block damage is useful. He's still got to play into the Suffocate now, but there's a chance that it's going to help him, since it's not as much damage here if Statuary Maiden gets removed as if Champion of Chaos happens.
While Cabal Countess possibly putting this game completely out of Grizzly's reach right here. We'll see if Xanric has some sort of combat trick. A torch or a rapid shot to follow this up would just be lethal if there's no block.
Grizzly chooses to block here, and I think that's the safe bet. Like, from here, Xanric has options, but most of them are going to involve like that Umbran Reaper just dying, and that's not necessarily the way that this is going to shake out. He might be able to chump block here and get away with it.
Yeah, Grizzly should be able to chump block here, although he will be able to take up the Argenport Instigator. Oh, wait. Which order do these resolve in?
They resolve simultaneously, so he will just he'll lose the life and gain the life, but he won't be dead. Yes.
Okay, so he will not die. He will go to 5 though, and he keeps drawing Umbran Reapers, but now it's too late. Now it's too late, because now he will just take lethal before the Umbran Reaper effect actually resolves.
That's right. If and Xanric has a Death Strike, which
was unnecessary to play,
here, but it certainly does. Just give him a better shot
at it. Actually, I'm not sure if he should Death Strike there.
I think it's reasonable. Like, if there is this combat trick or something along those lines, then it's going to happen regardless. So you might as well get rid of the Umbran Reaper first.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I guess it will happen regardless. I just felt like it opened yourself up to Torch, and it was kind of like the all-in. I think I've already won, but I haven't actually won game plan.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mainly irrelevant the order he does it in there. I don't think it would have made much of a difference. But importantly, Xanric taking 2 games back there in the board, and now all of a sudden, for the 3rd time in a row, we find ourselves on game 5.
Yeah. We are once again on even odds, which is a testament to the strength of Xanric's deck and just like general like offense. Grizzly made a misstep, and then he also had just a power issue. And if he has another mistake or slip, like Xanric can capitalize on that and win the game. It's probably anyone's game now. I think like once again, Grizzly's deck just does have better things in it, but these treacheries and suffocates are maybe not the choices that are going to help him finish things off.
Yeah, we will see if the treacheries and the sabotages can actually push him over, or if they end up as more of a hindrance like we've seen up to this point. But we will see as we jump into game 5.
Yeah, I don't think I'm on board with the treacheries in general. They're very good against like big threatening units that can do a lot when they're on board, but for the most part, he's not pulling out too many cards. Bandit Queen is the main one that he can target that's going to be really, really good to hit before it comes down.
Yeah, it will be good to take care of that, but this is an interesting start out of Grizzly. He's got the Suffocates for the early aggression again, so this Oni Ronin's going to get eaten away while he builds up, and he has a Stray, so maybe this is the hand that Grizzly has been looking for.
It's awkward so far, but if he gets power, then things look good for him. If he doesn't get power, then he plays a fairly weak champion. It gets torched, and that's basically game. From here, I don't think you play the champion. And yeah, Suffocate comes down instead.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think getting Suffocate down here is perfectly reasonable, and it gives you Annihilate as a follow-up if anything too threatening gets played, but I don't think anything besides a Champion of Chaos will be coming down this turn that would be considered threatening. Yeah, these Grenadin drones definitely not going to soak up this Annihilate.
Well, now you've got the 4/4 champion, and you've also got Statuary Maiden. Statuary Maiden's a really good answer to tokens and a really good answer to burn in general, but I can see the reason to play the champion first since it's a little harder to remove and thus might serve as a better blocker.
Yeah, this is going to come down to Zanric having a rapid shot, and since he doesn't, this is now this becomes a very interesting board state. Grizzly with this Stray into Shadow that he's not very inclined to play, and Flame Blast coming out to take out the Statuary Maiden puts a lot of pressure on Grizzly.
Yep, that's pretty critical. Stray into Shadow looks pretty good here because it clears those tokens and also puts the champion in a position where things are actually looking okay. But Grizzly just kind of wants to deal with this champion first before he strays. And that could end up costing him if Bandit Queen is the next card that comes out.
Yeah, it definitely could, but he will have to sacrifice his own champion, and I guess that's the consideration.
Yep, it's not great card advantage. It's even trade at this point.
Yeah, Stray into Shadow is causing -4/-4, and I think now we can finally see him safely commit the Stray into Shadows. Now that he's not worried about his own champion dying. Although it looks like it was still enough of a consideration for him to hold back, and I guess he's just going to clean trade here. But he's still going to eat 4 and go to 11. And Zanric's deck is holding a lot of burn, and he's been missing power, so you have to assume that his hand is just straight gas.
Quite possible. Like Strand of Shadows here looks okay. He's got torches. He's got some decent options against these tokens. He's just hoping for Zanric to play a little bit more into the board so he can stray effectively.
Yeah, and I think that Oni Ronin will probably push him into having to play Stray. Like, I think that's finally the turning point. Or no, it looks like he'll decide to torch it, but he's still taking 2 damage every turn, and 2 damage isn't completely nothing.
Yep. Picking up that Vara's Favor helps him a little bit. It's a little bit of health gain, and it also gets rid of one of those tokens. At this point, Zanric actually has to start committing more stuff to the board, and then maybe Grizzly's Stray will actually look pretty good.
Yeah, maybe. This has become a real interesting game 5. Ooh, and we see the Cabal Countess coming down, and let's see if Zanric wants to power it up, and he does.
That's 2 turns of stuff just denied by Grizzly. So from here on out, he's still taking that 1 damage a turn, and that's actually quite relevant. But like, I don't know, it's a problem area.
Yeah, it's a very big problem for Grizzly, and with that Umbran Reaper coming down, I think Stray is finally going to actually have to come down. But this puts Grizzly at 3. He is in torch range. And
I mean, Zanra can actually win this with a Dark Return. If he Dark Returns Umbran Reaper and just plays it, that's the game. But yeah, there's Obliterate for the win.
Obliterate followed up, and wow, yeah, Zanric actually going to be the one who climbs back at this time around 3-2.
Yeah, underwhelming Stray sideboard, but also just not a great hand for Grizzly. So Zanric does take the win, and I think Zanric definitely played all of those games just right. Did everything that he needed to do to capitalize on Grizzly's missteps and capitalize on all of the missed powers and general things that you see as a course of 5 games of Eternal. So yeah, good job for Zanric, and he is our invitational champion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not invitational champion.
Yeah, weekly champion. He does win the weekly 3-2 over Grizzly. So big congratulations to him for taking down the series. Big congratulations to Grizzly as well, one of our repeat invitationalists. And he also, as well as Zanric, went ahead for top 2ing, locking up his spot to the invitational. So big congratulations to both of those players. And big congratulations. Well, not congratulations so much, but big thank you, rather, to all of the players and viewers today. We also want to do some real quick shout outs. Shout outs to our tournament organizer, Rikenner, for doing an excellent job, as always, making sure this whole show runs. thank you to Pojo for being here with me, as always. Really do appreciate the help, man.
A delight, a delight.
Thank you. And big thanks to Miller, our producer. Miller Tool is the one who actually has this whole Reckoner makes sure that the tournament show runs, but Miller makes sure that this actual show runs, the show we are actually doing. So huge shout out to him. He helps us a lot with all of that. Only reason that you all get to see this wonderful broadcast goodness. Thank you
Thanks to you as well, Bairdrus.
Oh, thank you, man. I love being here and helping entertain all of y'all on a week-to-week basis. It
I
is
wouldn't be the
something
same
I love to
without
do.
you.
Oh, well, I do appreciate it. Thank you to our VOD contribution by aReNGee. Thank you for graphics contributions from X Kirby, Dragonfly, Sir Rhino, and Zariah. Thank you to Mengar for our tie-break script. Thank you for aReNGee once again for setting this whole thing up and having a tournament circuit for us to play in, cast, watch, whatever it is you folks at home are participating in doing. We have aReNGee to thank for making the whole thing a reality. Thank you to rainwave.cc for our music. Thank you. Well, not thank you, but everybody, please hit that follow button on Twitch if you enjoyed the show. We really do appreciate the follows. If you would like to contribute, feel free to at www.patreon.com/RNGEternal. Once again, that's www.patreon.com/RNGEternal. We really do appreciate all the donations that you all provide us. This is how we fund the entire show and our prize support, which is what we prize support for the invitationals. Obviously, we do not quite have weekly prize support. It is a work in progress. But we really do appreciate all the donations. They are what keep us running. We do not use any advertisements on our websites or broadcasts. So everything we do is for free. All we take in is donations. So we really do appreciate everybody who contributes, and be looking for, at some point in the near future, updated Patreon goals. We'll try and update those, and also update the prize support that we hand out for them. The backers. The backer support, whatever it is exactly called. I'm not entirely sure. I need to look at the name. Also, check out www.rngeternal.com, where you can find all sorts of great content, including articles, the ranked tier list, stock list, the soon-to-be updated draft tier list, Neon's wonderful podcast he runs, and all sorts of great Eternal Tournament Series information, where you can find all of the information about the rule sets, and the various calendar for the rest of the year, where we have marked out all of the tournaments that we will be running until the end of the year. And once again, big thank you to all of our players and viewers. Obviously, the whole show doesn't happen without you guys as well. So thank you for being here.
So much, guys.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And I think that's going to do it for us tonight. So we are going to roll some credits, and we will see you all next weekend.
It's a pleasure, and looking forward to it.
Everyone have a wonderful night.